It's good to have you here. It is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, and we are gathered for the monthly voting meeting of the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission. And I'll ask clerk to call roll for us.
Davenport.
Here.
Lee. Here. Taylor.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Fisher.
Here.
Poole.
Here.
Culpepper.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Thornton.
Here.
Hamby.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk, and we'll begin, as always, with our civility pledge that has been provided to us by the Georgia Municipal Association that indicates that the way we govern ourselves is often as important as the positions we take, that our collective decisions will be better when differing views have had the opportunity to be fully vetted and considered, that all people have the right to be treated with respect, courtesy, and openness, and that we value all input and commit to conduct ourselves at all times with civility and courtesy to each other. So with that, first item of business is approval of the minutes of meetings of Tuesday, September 3rd, Tuesday, September 10th, Tuesday, September 17th, and non-voting meetings of Tuesday, September 10th, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, September 19th, 20th, and 21st, and Thursday, August 29th, 2024. Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Davenport. I have a second from Commissioner Taylor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, those minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, are there any written communications?
There are none.
All right, thank you. All right, I want to go ahead and outline the terms of public input for the evening. We have a couple segments of the agenda. We have a consent agenda that are currently items 1 through 23, although that may change in just a moment. We have planning and zoning items, which are numbers 24 through 28. And then we have old and new business items 29 to 33. In each of those cases, public has an opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes. You see the colorful light in front of the clerk, and that will turn green when you begin speaking, yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining, and red when your 3 minutes has concluded. And I will thank you for your time with us tonight. At the end of the meeting, we have an opportunity for input on any item that was not on tonight's agenda under those same terms that I just described. So I would like to ask from members of the commission, would anyone like to remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion? I'm going to recognize Commissioner Houle.
Item 13, please.
All right. All right. Any other item? All right, y'all did a good job moving things to consent last meeting. I appreciate you leaving them there. All right, so would any member of the public like to speak to any of the items 1 through 23, excluding item 13? Would any member of the public like to speak to any of those consent agenda items 1 through 23, excluding item 13? Good evening. Just give us your name, place of residence for the record.
Stephanie Johnson, Athens, Georgia. The item number that I'm speaking on is regarding the elevators for the courthouse. I just want to point out, I think it might be a small mistake, but it's a big mistake, financial mistake, if it's incorrect. On the first page, the agenda item asks for approval for $600,000 to replace or repair, the inmate elevator. On the last page with the signature, it actually includes the inmate elevators as well as the pedestrian elevators for a total cost not to exceed $600,000. So I think it's important for you to know if it hasn't been corrected, or if you don't know, and for us to know if this award is for one elevator or for the 3 elevators and the total correct price. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. All right. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak to any consent agenda item? Again, those are 1 through 23, excluding 13. All right. Seeing none, I believe there's some ordinances to read, so I'll turn to Attorney Drake to do that before we take a vote.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. There's 8 ordinances. So item 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Item 1, an ordinance for the establishment of a controlled parking residential area on Woodlawn Avenue between Stanton Way and South Village Avenue and for other purposes. Item 3, an ordinance to amend the FY 2025 annual operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding to the Transportation and Public Works Department from the Georgia Department of Transportation, GOD, FY 24 Local Maintenance Improvement Grant, LMIG Safety Action Plan, and for other purposes. Item 4, an ordinance to amend the FY 2025 annual operating capital budget for Athens-Clarke County so as to provide grant funding, if awarded, to the Housing and Community Development HCD Department from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD through the Pathways to Removing Obstacles to Housing Program for support of affordable housing development, preservation, planning, and policy activities, and for one additional full-time position and for other purposes. Item 5, an ordinance to amend the FY 2025 operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding, if awarded, from the Bureau of Justice Assistance for expenses related to comprehensive opioid, stimulant, and substance abuse site-based program, COSOP grant program, and for other purposes. Item 6, an ordinance to amend the FY 2025 annual operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County so as to provide funding from the Airport Enterprise Fund unrestricted net position for airport capital improvement parking lot project and for other purposes. Item 7, ordinance to amend the FY 2025 annual operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County so as to provide funding from Airport Enterprise Fund unrestricted net position for airport capital improvement taxiway B pavement rehabilitation and lighting project and for other purposes. Item 8, an ordinance to amend the FY 2025 annual operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding, if awarded, to the Sustainability Department from the U.S. Department of Transportation through the Federal Highway Administration Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Discretionary Grant Program for installation of electric vehicle charging stations and for other purposes.
Thank you, Attorney Drake. I appreciate it. Entertain a motion from the body.
I'll make a motion, but I have a question as well.
Yeah, Commissioner Hamby.
Just a real quick. Manager Jones, can you please clarify that the courthouse inmate elevator covers all the costs for all the elevators needing to be fixed?
Yes, sir, it does. It covers all three. The $600,000 does.
Okay, thank you.
Then I have a question. So the elevator is a legitimate expense, okay, with the ARPA money? Yes. Okay.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, Mayor.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby to approve 1 through 23 excluding 13. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I've got a second from Commissioner Hool. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed?
One
All right.
opposed.
All right, Commissioner Thornton is opposed. Please note that, Madam Clerk. All right, we are going to move to public hearing and deliberation on recommendations from the Athens-Clarke County Planning Commission, and we're beginning with item number 24. Is there anyone from the public who is here to speak to item number 24 regarding 615 Tallassee Road? Just let us know your name and place of residence for the record.
I am Jeff Carter with Carter Engineering Consultants, representing Waseca Schools tonight. Waseca's been at this location for several years. Really going back to 2017, they got a special use permit to build a new building in just a few years ago in 2017, and were never able to complete that building because the funds were not available. Now they are able to do it, and the special use permit had expired, and so they want to get approval tonight to do that. So Ms. Sarah Cox, the director of Waseca, is here to answer any questions that you may have, but we appreciate your support.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Is there anyone else here to speak to item 24?
Good evening. My name is Sarah Cox. I'm the head of school at Waseca Montessori School. We're located right off Tallassee Road. We have been at this location for right around 10 years. We did have the goal in 2017 of expanding. We've been in the community for over 31 years, so while it seems like a small project, it's really large to us in our community, and I would love to answer any questions that you have, and I just really appreciate your time and consideration today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Is there anyone else here to speak to item 24 tonight? All right, seeing none, this is in District 5, so I'm going to turn to Commissioner Fisher for a motion.
Yeah. My motion is to approve that project.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Fisher, a second from Commissioner Hool. Any remarks?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I did, unfortunately, I missed the agenda setting, but I did get an opportunity to go by and meet Ms. Cox and Mr. Carter on Monday and look at the project. Really nice project. that they're doing. And of course, it's a learning center school, so they're trying to expand in those particular areas. I did have one concern, not from them, but what they want us to do a sidewalk there in front of that facility, and I think, to me, it's unnecessary to put a sidewalk. All the students that come to that school, they car riders, so I'm not sure why we're requesting them to do a sidewalk, which is going to probably put $20,000-$30,000 on that particular project. So I'm a little bothered by that. And again, I did not get a chance to talk with the planning director, but I'm gonna push this forward. But I think we need to be real careful when people either expanding their property or renovating their property, and then we come in and say, okay, you need to do a sidewalk out front, and that sort of bothers me, Mayor. So I want to go on record saying that I don't care for the sidewalk, but after talking with Ms. Cox and Mr. Carter, we want to move the project forward, so we're not going to slow the project down by this thing. As we move forward and this thing like this happen, I'm going to be very tentative to those type of requests from our planning department and from the planning commission. So.
Commissioner Houle, any follow-up?
Sure. I guess this is kind of following on the agenda setting. We had discussed the sidewalk a little bit, and there's that Tallassee Road SPLOST project to try to get a multi-use path down there, and we had talked about trying to make sure that whatever's built would align with that project. So I guess I do want to just confirm with the attorney that with the way this condition is written, because I know it cites a specific section of code, but from what I recall from our planning director, the sidewalk they'd build, they'd be talking with our TPW folks about making sure it aligned with the multi-use path alignment. And, I guess I'll just offer to Commissioner Fisher, another option would be to remove that condition if you want to.
Well, and again, I didn't know whether or not I can. That's why,
You can.
if I need to change my motion, Mayor, and
You can amend it.
If you'd like to place an amended motion on the floor, you could do that.
I think I would ask that if we did that, we just maybe rephrase it to retaining dedicated space for a dedicated right-of-way for that multi-use path, but we don't have to ask them to build it.
okay, you want to say something?
I do. I think that's a good idea to do that since it is a SPLOST project and since we're already planning on building anyway. And I think having that language in there that Commissioner Houle recommended would be a good option.
Okay. So if I'm in order, I'd like to amend my motion to recommend that we remove the sidewalk portion of that particular project and making sure that the right-of-way stays in order to get ready for trails or pathways to the Tallassee Road connection.
Second that amended motion.
I'm happy to continue to second that. I just want to make sure, does that give us what we need, Attorney Drake, or do you need us to refine that language
Move the sidewalk condition
and replace it with
and replacing with retaining space for a dedicated multi-use path in conjunction with
the SPLOST project?
SPLOST project.
Correct, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Any further remarks from members of the body? All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Fisher and a
I need to
second.
read, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, go right ahead. Thank you, Ed.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia with respect to special use approval in the RS-15 Single-Family Residential District for one parcel of land located at 615 Tallassee Road.
All right, motion from Commissioner Fisher, second from Commissioner Houle. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Go forth and do well. All right, item 25 regards property at 204 Old Hull Road. Is there anyone here from the public to speak to this project? Good evening.
Hey, good evening. My name's Frank Pittman. I'm with Pittman and Gray Engineering. We're at 1050 Barber Creek Drive in Watkinsville. I'm here representing the property owner of 204 Old Hull Road. It's currently zoned CG. We're asking for a rezone to RM2, which would allow for 58 beds. The plan would be to do a cottage-style development with cottages fronting Old Hull Road. Some of them could be duplexes as well. The property is surrounded by other multifamily, most of which is zoned RM2. There is one that's zoned commercial, but is developed as multifamily. So this is, as time has gone by, this has turned into a residential corridor. There is water and sewer available for the project. Planning staff and planning commission both recommend approval. And I would ask for you guys' approval tonight, open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pittman. Is there anyone else here to speak to 204 Old Hole Road? All right, seeing none, I'm going to ask Commissioner Link, who represents District 2, to place a motion on the floor.
Yeah, I move to approve. This makes perfect sense, and it's nice to see this kind of modest development available for residents.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Link and a second from Commissioner Thornton. Any further remarks, Commissioner Link?
Nope.
Commissioner Thornton?
I had prepared to vote no on this because I'm paying very close attention to water and sewage now. So you said the right things at the right time, but this would have been a no if we hadn't addressed water and sewage. So thank you.
Any further remarks from the body? All right, could we read the ordinance? Attorney Drake.
Mr. Mayor, there's actually two ordinances. There's a first amendment to the future land use map and then the rezoning.
Okay, we'll take the first vote
All
on
right.
the amendment.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia with respect to amending the future land use map of Athens-Clarke County by changing the designation of approximately 2.45 acres located at 204 Old Hole Road from general business to mixed-density residential and for other purposes.
All right, so regarding future land use, there's a motion from Commissioner Link, a second from Commissioner Thornton. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, could a commissioner place a motion on the floor regarding the rezoning?
I'll move to approve the rezoning.
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a motion regarding the rezoning. We'll go ahead and read that ordinance.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia with respect to rezoning one parcel of land comprising approximately 2.45 acres located at 204 Old Hole Road from CG Commercial General to RM2 Mixed Density Residential and for other purposes.
All right, we have a motion and a second regarding the rezoning. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, we're going to move on to item 26. 26 regards three parcels comprising 9.42 acres at 1825, 1885, and 1889 Lexington Road. Is any member of the public present to speak to this project?
Good evening, Jeff Carter with Carter Engineering, 1010 Commerce Drive in Bogart. There's a couple things I'd like to mention about this development. This is a 100% affordable housing development. The developer will utilize the low-income housing tax credits, which provides housing affordable for those persons making 60% AMI in Athens. So I wanted to clear that up. These rates will be locked in for 30 years, at least 30 years, through this agreement, the LIHTC agreement. And there's a couple of things that we have heard that we just wanted to clarify, that there's no students allowed in this development. So that's part of the LIHTC agreement. So there won't be any students in this development. The name of the project, I know that came up. We've got flats in there. We're happy to take that out. No problem at all. The Airport Authority, so we went through the Airport Authority review process, attended their meetings, answered a lot of questions for them, and they unanimously approved this on July 23rd, or recommended approval on July 23rd. Just a couple of little minor tweaks that we made, and they've approved the plan. The Planning Commission also has recommended approval for you, and we have Ms. Sheila Crisp here tonight with Athens Area Housing Authority, and she could speak to this project. She supports this project and thinks it's a good thing for Athens. Because of the LIHTC process, unfortunately, we really need a decision tonight just to be able to make that process work. So we do have some time constraints in making that the LIHTC credit program. So we want to, again, 100% affordable housing to Athens. Sam Rogers is here with Birds and Held. He's the developer. They've done quite a few of these, so they're very knowledgeable about what they're doing. Through some discussions with Ms. Taylor, she had requested that we increase the number of three-bedroom units. And so originally we came with 12 originally, but now we've agreed to double that to 24. So it'll be 24 three-bedroom units. And the only thing I'll add to that is I understand from talking with staff that in our application we have 228 bedrooms. And so we just need to ask you guys to allow us to go to 240 to increase to 3 bedrooms. I think it's kind of a technicality, but I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. So happy to answer any questions that you have. These guys are here to my right as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Others here to speak to the Lexington Road project? Good evening.
Sam Rogers of Virgin Health in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's nice to be back in front of you guys. We were here about a year ago to talk about Athens Flats and our partnership with the Athens Us Housing Authority. It's the exact same setup with the Housing Authority, where they would have not only a right of first offer on the development, but also a purchase option at the end of a 15-year initial compliance period. So obviously it'll stay affordable and with the Housing Authority for years to come. And with that, we just thank you for your time and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Any others here to speak to Lexington Road? All right. I'll go ahead and move to Commissioner Taylor, in whose district this property resides, for a motion.
I motion to approve this development with some conditions. I would like to amend the bedrooms to 240. Do I do that now, Judd? Okay, 240 bedrooms.
Do you want to specify so as to include 24 three-bedroom units?
Yeah,
That's
to
the word,
specify 24 three-bedroom units. I'm sorry.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Taylor. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Taylor. Taking notes here, apologize. Second from Commissioner Thornton. Commissioner Taylor, any further remarks?
Yeah, I appreciate all of the work that's went into making this affordable, as well as accommodating more 3 bedrooms for families. Because what I do see is we have families, y'all, that's living in extended stays. And at the end of the month, they're paying just as much for a hotel room with children than they are for an apartment. And so I just want to thank Mr. Carter for listening to my sentiments on increasing the 3 bedrooms. I just look forward to families having a place to lay their head at night. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Thornton, any further?
I'm just excited that I'm starting to hear real affordability in housing. I am really appreciative to the role that the Housing Authority has played in making this happen. We could not do it without you. We still got a long way to go, but I really, 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 and anytime you want to come from Indiana and set up some more, you're more than welcome. But we finally are seeing affordability while I'm on the commission. So, and thank you, Commissioner Taylor, for making it happen.
Praise the Lord.
Everybody.
Any further input from the commission? Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make sure that I'm excited for this to move forward. I appreciate Commissioner Taylor's amendment. I just want to make sure that the applicant is fine with that before we move forward with it.
He already said it.
Yes. All right. Anything further? All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and hear the ordinance from Attorney Drake.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia with respect to special use approval of multifamily dwellings and ground floor residential in the CGA Commercial General Airport Overlay and RM1 multifamily residential districts for 3 parcels of land located at 1825, 1885, and 1889 Lexington, totaling approximately 9.42 acres, and for other purposes. I just want to make sure Bruce is good with the language. Yep, we're good.
All right, there's a motion and a second. We've read the ordinance. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, we're moving on to item 27, which regards 1.72 acres at 290 South Lumpkin Street. Is there anyone here to speak to this project? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Jeff Warwick from Swanee, Georgia, and currently I own 450 South Lumpkin Street in long-term partnership with the Georgia Baptist Mission Board, and we are under contract with the Board of Regents to do a land swap with 290 South Lumpkin that should close in a couple of weeks. What we're creating here is a dynamic project that's a mixed-use, on-campus residential commercial project that solves some housing needs, it solves some parking needs, And I think most importantly, perpetuates the ministry of the BCM, or the Baptist Collegiate Ministry of the Georgia Baptist Mission Board, that's been on this campus since 1961. So our partnership with the Mission Board is to be the catalyst for that ministry so that they can do good work on this campus. We're thrilled about this project. We're excited about what we're doing and what it's going to mean to the community. So thank you for hearing our request.
Thank you, Mr. Warwick.
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate it very much. Is there anyone else here to speak to this project on South Lumpkin? All right, this is in District 4, so I'll turn to Commissioner Wright for a motion.
I couldn't say it any better, and I enthusiastically support this and make a motion to
Approve the future
approve
land
the
use.
future land use.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, I've got a second from Commissioner Thornton. Any further remarks?
Ready to vote.
All right, Commissioner Thornton?
Ready to vote?
All right, we'll go ahead and read the ordinance regarding the future land use.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to amending the future land use map of Athens-Clarke County by changing the designation of 1.72 acres located at 290 South Lumpkin Street from government to downtown and for other purposes.
All right, thank you, Attorney Drake. All right, we have a motion and a second regarding the future land use. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, I need a separate motion for the rezoning.
Yeah, for the rezoning, this is going to be transformative and a true partnership happening with this transformation. So I make a motion to approve the rezoning.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All right, Attorney Drake's going to read that ordinance as well.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens, Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to rezoning one parcel of land comprising approximately 1.72 acres located at 290 South Lumpkin Street from G Government to CDWE Commercial Downtown West End Design Area and for other purposes.
All right, I've got a ordinance read. I want to recognize Commissioner Davenport.
Yeah, just, I know this is impossible, and this is for the applicant. There's a beautiful oak tree that's sitting on that property. I just remember when I went to UGA, that oak tree was one of my favorites, but if, I know it's gonna be torn down, but if you can plant another one somewhere, that'd be nice. Thank you.
All right, Davenport for the oak. All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, the last planning and zoning item is item number 28, and this is a text amendment to Code Section 9-27 regarding inclusionary zoning. Is there any member of the public here to speak to this item? All right, seeing none, I'll come to the commission for a motion.
Motion to approve?
I second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Davenport and a second from Commissioner Taylor. All right, Commissioner Davenport, any remarks?
No, none.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes, I would like to thank the planning and the zoning and planning department for putting this together because it is in layman's terms, like it's in English. So residents can understand this document and get a better understanding as far as our inclusionary zoning, as well as all of the other definitions that goes within our planning decision making, so that there isn't a lack of understanding when it comes to our voting and why we vote for different things to be built in Athens, so that there is not a rift between this body and the community. So thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Planning Department. I would just advocate for everyone to read this document so that they can get a real understanding of how Athens-Clarke County makes its decisions before, we go live or, put out misinformation.
Anything further? All right, we're going to go ahead and read the ordinance.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to inclusionary zoning and for other purposes.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Davenport and a second from Commissioner Taylor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Staff, thank you very much, and I do want to thank the Inclusionary Zoning Task Force that worked on this, kind of to produce that first version that launched a couple of years ago. So great work, everybody. All right, we are now moving on to old and new business. And so those items are items 13 and 29 through 33. 13 and 29 through 33. Would any member of the public like to speak to any of these items? If so, now is that time. Please again, give us your name and place of residence for the record.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. My name is Tim Denson, 483 Quailwood Drive. Walked in at the perfect time. I would like to speak to item number 29 with the ARPA fund allocations. I have to say I have some concerns about the reallocation of funds, specifically the ones around youth development and violence prevention. And I say this with all due respect because I understand how difficult it is to find the funding for so many of these other items, such as the courthouse elevator, fleet replacement. The budget is tight and you have to find it where you can. I do think, though, it is problematic that nearly half of the ARPA Youth Development Fund is being removed. And that's the case in both the CDO and in the staff variation also. Especially because when you look at the stuff, there is money going to the Boys and Girls Club, and that's good, including on top of the money they already have. And a few other things, but a lot of that money is going towards things that could not be argued to be youth development in any type of way. And if you actually look up the budget for this year that y'all passed, there is for the fleet replacement fund, which I know, always underfunded, but still $21 million. Y'all put $21 million in there for fleet replacement. If you search the term youth in the FY25 budget, how many pages is the budget, y'all? Like 300 something pages, maybe? The word youth appears one time. One time. So I know y'all have to move that money around. Y'all have to find money for these things. I think you're looking under the wrong rock. I think that we need more, especially the fact that in this ordinance, one of the recommendations from staff was to have basketball courts funded there, but I do not see the basketball courts even funded in either one of these CDO or the staff option. So yeah, I just really recommend that y'all reconsider moving all that fund away from youth development. I understand it's also tough to find the right place to put it, and finding nonprofits that can actually do all of the necessary rules that come with the ARPA funding, but please reconsider this. I don't think this is a very good reallocation, and I think we need to put more money towards youth development and violence prevention, less money towards fleet replacement and such like this from this item. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Denson. All right, we're going to go ahead and move to further comment. Just leave your name and place of residence for the record.
Russell Edwards, 400 Duncan Springs Road. Thank you. I wanted to speak in favor of item 33, the College Avenue beautification project. It's amazing how wonderful the space is. And right now it's just an abandoned roadway, and it's really impressive to see all the folks that gather there every day and sit at the picnic tables and under the umbrellas. So I'm really happy to hear about the work of the ADDA and other folks in the community who have come up with this push to beautify what's already become a wonderful public space right in the heart of the city, the heart of downtown. It's a wonderful thing. I would like to point your attention to number 4 on the in the agenda item 33 for long-term traffic investigation. Extending the left turn vehicle storage lane for traffic turning left onto Lumpkin from Broad, extending that 250 feet. And so I find it hard to imagine how that gets accomplished without taking out the Vance obelisk, the beautiful old anchor, the trees, the park that's right there downtown to get another lane, you know. This is the heart of the city. This is the most, people walk more there than anywhere else in the whole county. So I think traffic safety has recognized that the closure to vehicle traffic has made it much safer for people walking there. So I don't really see why we need to build more vehicle travel lanes, more car travel lanes right in the heart of downtown. I think we all know, the research shows, you build more lanes, you get more traffic. You know, you have to build for what you want to see. So just bringing that to your attention, that's a long-term goal, but let's keep beautifying the area, making it safe for pedestrians, and maybe replace the tree, the 2 trees on the squares, and maybe we can replace the clock that was knocked down. You know, let's keep things beautiful that we already have, and then glow up the College Square. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Is there anyone else here to speak to items 13 or 29 through 33? Good evening, just meet us here.
Mr. Mayor.
Name and place of residence for the record.
Willie Green, Athens, Georgia. I'm speaking on behalf of the agenda item 29 of the reallocation of the ARPA funds. And as Mr. Denson stated, I totally disagree with this. If you look at it, it's for prevention. So Athens Sports Arena, which I own, has asked for $1.2 million for 2 years for youth game prevention. Most of you have been out there. Most of your kids come out to my gym and play every Sunday morning, every Sunday afternoon. I open my gym up to the young kids in Athens for free. I don't get any funding from you. But then we're talking about prevention, right? But yet we're spending, what, $600,000, $700,000 on police cars and another $600,000 on a jail, on a courthouse for this. That's not prevention. That's reaction. What I'm doing is doing a prevention. But yet you won't fund me. You won't fund the Athens Sports Arena for the West Side Community Center. But then what are you telling our kids now? We're not preparing you to be future leaders or good citizen. We're preparing you to go to jail. We're going to get more police cars out there so we can arrest you. We want to put an elevator in the courthouse so we can get you up to the courts and prosecute you as soon as possible. This is about prevention. If you want to go get infrastructure money, go get it from somewhere else, as Tim just said. But why are you taking $3 million that's specifically stated for youth development to put toward things that encourage more arresting of our young minorities and low income and underserved community? It just doesn't make sense. Now, you question whether or not I have the qualification. I don't think anybody on this commission or in this audience thinks that I'm not qualified to be able to serve this community. My family has been doing it for over 50 years. Both my mom and I have the key to the city from 2 different mayors for our community service work for what we've done for this community. But now you don't want to fund me, but everybody else can get funding. The Boys and Girls Club, rightfully so, no disrespect for them. But they don't have a rec center on the west side. Nowhere on west of Hawthorne is any community center on the west side. We got 9 that is funded on the east side, but we have not one park and rec facility that is funded west of West Broad Street. So I'm asking you, please do not vote to approve this money to send our kids to jail, to give the police more reason to arrest them because they don't have anything to do on the west side of Athens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Anyone else here to speak to items 13 or, yeah, we need to get to folks, 13 or 29 through 33. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm here to speak to item 33 about the proposed redesign for the pedestrian area of College Avenue.
Just give us your name.
Oh, sorry,
and place of
Dylan
residence for the
Woolsey,
record.
505 Riverbend Parkway. I've not been able to look through each of the planned designs, but in general, I would like to voice my support in terms of more pedestrianization, especially at this area, because the current College Avenue that's closed off to vehicles is really in Athens the perfect spot for pedestrian area. It's at the crossroads of many different transit stops, as well as a lot of areas where people walk a lot in. So it's the perfect crossroads for people not needing to use their own personal car. So it's able to help reduce traffic through through less people needing to use their vehicles, as well as the other bad side effects of our car use. As well as a lot of studies have shown, it really helps the local storefronts that are on pedestrian areas for those areas to be pedestrianized, because they often see a lot of increase in traffic. And I know, likely as a person who goes there often, that many of the people I know who shop there, one of the big drivers is that they don't have to drive. They can just walk up really quickly and are able to purchase something from there. So I think maintaining and expanding the use of the pedestrian use area in that area, as well as, if this is successful long-term, possibly expanding it to other areas in Athens that are really well suited for it, such as areas where there's a lot of transit connectivity, a lot of transit stops, would be something to look at and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woolsey. Other old or new business input? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Gonzalez. I'm your elected DA, Athens, Georgia. I'm here to speak on item number 29, the ARPA fund allocations. My phone and email has been blowing up all day about this, because people understand that I am really committed to youth in this community, and one of the ways that I see that we decrease crime is by investing in our youth. And it really concerns me that we are taking out of 3.7 million, almost 3.4 out of what's been allocated already for youth and putting it in infrastructure. I work in the courthouse. I know about those elevators, but I rather climb 5 sets of stairs than take money away from our children. We have put this money in. We committed this money to youth violence prevention. It should stay there, and there are ways. Last week, I spent a few days with district attorneys from all over the country, with the director of the Office of Juvenile Justice in the Department of Justice. They are the ones who go out and look at juvenile programs and determine what works and what doesn't work. If you're afraid of not being able to spend this money on a due date, there are programs that are ready to go right now if we are ready to go. But there are other things that we can do. And what I always say, a budget is a moral document. Tell me where you spend your money, and I will tell you where your values are. And what this is telling me is that we are not valuing our children, that we are taking away the resources that we need for them and putting it into infrastructure where we can get other funds for. I understand, trust me, I understand how hard it is to get money for the things that we need in our offices, but this is a wrong move. This is telling our children that we are putting them below an elevator for inmates, and that should never be the message that we want to give to our children and our community and our families. So I am asking you, please reconsider this. Do not vote on this today. I think there is more work that needs to be done. I think we truly need, if we're going to commit this money, to then commit and invest the time to get the right program for our children. We have had millions of dollars coming into our community in the last 10 to 15 years, and yet we are still at the same place that we were 10 years ago. We need to do something different. This is the resource for our children, and I'm asking you, please do not vote this tonight in this way. Thank you.
Thank you, D.A. Gonzalez. Is there anyone else here to speak to any of the old or new business items? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission, all you beautiful people. I've sat where you're sitting, so I'll be really brief. In 1989, I believe that's right, Spike Lee directed a film called Do the Right Thing. So with that being said, I'm going to hit 2 points real quick. One, when I was county commissioner, we were trying to get fresh water to the outlying parts of the county, and we were held up with some sewer excuses. I'm asking you not to let sewer excuses be an excuse this time. Give these people fresh water who own wells that want to get off wells, okay? You can create some type of program. Second of all, Mr. Green was dead on point about not having a public facility on the west side. As I recall, there was a spillage that perpetrated a gym for the Rock Springs public housing community, or that community, below Rock Springs is now the Christine Howard Community Center. That court was believed that it would receive a covering or at least a half court indoors, which never manifested. So I would encourage you again to just do the right thing with that. I'm going to the house. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Sheets. Is there anyone else here to speak to old or new business this evening?
Good evening, Theresa Omanovich, 320 East Clayton Street, Athens, Georgia. Good evening, everyone. I'm here to remind you again, this is my third time coming to the podium, about the ARPA funding. They're federal dollars. They were designed for specific reasons. You, as a commission, decided in 2022 to vote and allocate a certain amount to youth development, gang violence prevention, and also, no one's mentioned the business development and workforce support funds that are being reallocated. You guys do a study every year, and every year there are the same key findings in which that arise from these studies. Support for low wage earning workers in this town and youth programming. And so you're sitting here and you're going to reallocate, 3.6 million away from that, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So I agree with Tim Denson, Mr. Green, Mr. Sheets, DA Gonzalez. Please reconsider how you're allocating these funds. And if you need assistance with that, please reach out to the community and let us help you with that, because that was one of the requirements for these ARPA dollars. You needed to have community engagement. So I don't know at what point you stop speaking to the community, because it seems like you're not on the same page. So again, the very first time that I spoke in regards to this stuff, I mentioned that. You don't seem to be on the same page as what's going on in the community. So I'm just going to ask you to reconsider it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Simonovich. And Attorney Drake will take that.
There you go. Thanks.
Anyone else here to speak to old or new business this evening? Good evening.
Hey, good evening. Broderick Flanagan, Athens, Georgia. P.O. Box 195, Athens, Georgia. I'm here to speak to item number 29. Also in agreement that we should reconsider, reallocating that funding. I do want to kind of delve a little bit into like my personal experience, like growing up here in Athens, and the benefits that I personally got growing up in public housing, like living on the east side and having access to East Athens Community Center. I met some of my first mentors, lifelong mentors, who still mentor me to this day at that community center. And I was susceptible to some of the same things that we in our neighborhoods get criminalized for. I just was able to find a different pathway, in large part to a lot of the people who poured into me over the years. And so it breaks my heart, and I'm very disheartened and disappointed to see like these funds being reallocated, like others have spoken to earlier. I understand the difficulties in budgeting. There's only so many funds you have in a budget cycle. But like many others have said earlier, there are infrastructure dollars out there. There are grant writers that you have hired. Put them to work to go seek these other funding opportunities. But don't take it away from the youth, because, there are many examples of people who make it out of where I came from in public housing. But we don't do that without a certain type of support and infrastructure and networking. And like many speakers have said earlier, it takes investment into that infrastructure for it to be successful. And so, however, we are grateful for the funding that we have gotten over at EJC through the ARPA dollars, but also learning that there could have been a little bit more invested into those programs. I'm a little disappointed to see that we only got a certain amount, and we could have did a lot more if we would have gotten more money, because when the ARPA dollars first came out, we did submit a proposal that was like $1.8 million, I think it was, and to see that we only get the amount of funding that we are getting is, again, we are grateful for that, but we are a little disappointed to see that funds being reallocated that could have went towards that work that needs to happen. So I urge you and encourage you to please reconsider, what you're doing or what you're thinking about doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flanagan. Is there anyone else here to speak to either old or new business this evening? Good evening. Just give us your name and place of residence for the record.
Good evening. Christine Bice, 340 Whitehead Road, Athens, 30606. I'm also here to speak about item number 29, the reallocation of the ARPA funding. So if we're talking about reallocating it to infrastructure, then I think the way to go would be to reallocate it to more housing, building out to the outskirts of the county. The research is crystal clear in terms of housing, the relationship between affordable housing or lack thereof and crime. And so if we're going to try to help with the youth development and not be reactive, as Willie Green said, because that's what we're doing. We're setting ourselves up to imprison these young people. We need to invest that money in youth development and in affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spice. Is there anyone else here to speak tonight to old or new business? All right, seeing none, we'll move to commission action and begin with item 13, which moved out of the consent agenda. And this regards our hazard mitigation plan, and Commissioner Houle has submitted a CDO, so I'll turn to you, Commissioner Houle, for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Colleagues, you can see your inbox for this language written out, but it's a motion to approve the item as is with one modification. So we would still include A and B to adopt the plan and adopt the associated resolution. And then we would add, direct the manager to bring forth for consideration by the mayor and commission at the December 2024 voting meeting, completed drafts of the ACCGov Coordinated Refuge Plan, previously known as the Emergency Shelter Plan, and the ACCGov Emergency Operations Plan, which has also been referred to as the Emergency Response Plan.
There's a motion from Commissioner Houle. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Houle, a second from Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Houle, any further remarks?
I mean, we've talked about this a good bit at the agenda setting and in the work session, and there's been a lot of correspondence from staff since then, which I appreciate. I just want to, I guess, confirm with Manager Jones here. My understanding is that at least one of those plans, staff is already planning to have done by December. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
And that's the emergency shelter plan.
Mhm.
I did get word from Chief Moss that we will be working on the response plan, but I can't confirm that it will be done by December. So the emergency shelter plan should be on the December voting agenda. I'm not sure about the response plan.
Noted. Well, with that in mind, I'd like to keep this as is. We can always get whatever the updated version is from December and hold it until it's completed later, but we've waited years for these documents, and one of them is over 10 years old, and the other one is very much in draft form last we saw. So I think to make sure this gets done before the winter hits us, I'd like to keep that motion on the floor. But thank you, and thanks staff for their work on this.
Commissioner Fisher, any remarks?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Commissioner Houle on what direction we're trying to go in. I do want to talk about our shelter plan, though, and I think, with all the devastation that we have had the last few weeks with the hurricane and the different areas that was hit, and Athens was blessed to get missed. But I do worry that we don't have enough shelter locally, though, to support if we need it. Looking at what we had initially, to me, it wasn't enough. And I think what we need to do, we may be looking at that, but I think one of the things we need to start engaging our faith-based community, the YMCA, the YWCA. I think that's some other shelter that we need to start looking at. And again, that may be part of the plan once we see that. But I think it's critical after seeing it. And one of those places up in Asheville, North Carolina, that's where I went to school. And to see that devastation up there was just mind-boggling to me. So I just think we just need to expand our shelter, because if something happened like that in Athens, we need to have a plan. We need to be ready. We need to make sure that our residents here have an avenue to go if they don't have their homes and other places to go to. So I just want to add to that.
Thank you, Commissioner. I want to recognize Commissioner Myers, and then I see Commissioner Link and Commissioner Wright.
Yeah, I'm just reiterating some of the things that Commissioner Fisher said. I was glad to see in the agenda report that this plan is intended to be a working document, the first of many steps towards improving rational long-range mitigation with extreme weather patterns that we're seeing tied to climate change. This isn't going to get less. we just barely escaped that. I know looking at Facebook posts from 40 miles away, it'd be a whole lot different week for all us commissioners and staff if the weather had just been a little different. So I know this is really important to get through for our federal funding and being ready for the next steps. But I, hope that we will just continue to work on this. That was quite a reminder this last week how important this is.
Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I was just going to echo the same thing. The events of just the past few days have really hammered home how important it is to have this kind of plan at the ready and, to be prepared for something as apocalyptic and catastrophic as what we've seen in places like Asheville and Aiken, Augusta, and Valdosta. That could have very easily been us. We escaped this by the skin of our teeth. I was up all night watching that radar, watching that eye open and move over us while the dirty side of that hurricane was just a couple counties away. So yeah, I would love to see some kind of amendment to this document that had a catastrophic response portion. And this is a living document, so we do expect things to change, but I look forward to that emergency shelter plan come December.
Commissioner Wright?
Yeah, I guess I'm honestly a little uncomfortable telling staff a deadline for something. I think we all know that there's a lot on staff's plate. The part that is expected to be done by December, I think, is fair and reasonable to add. But I mean, we have multiple just police departments. We've got the school district, Athens-Tech, UGA, our police department, and so that's just part of what would be involved in the plan. I was wondering if the motioner and the seconder would allow staff to be coming forward in December with what would be a projected timeline for being able to coordinate with the multiple entities and 2 hospitals. It's a lot to plan and other entities to plan for to be ready by December, when it seems more appropriate to me that we would see the timeline plan for how to get all these entities together so that our plan is coordinated. We can't be isolated with all the major entities in our community. I'm not saying it's not important, but I think it needs to be done right, and it's got to be coordinated with the other, with the hospitals, as well as the other entities.
Any further input from members of the body? All right,
Just since the commissioner was asked, I'll say I appreciate Commissioner Wright's concerns here about the time it's going to take to get this done right. And I would like to keep the motion as is. And my thinking on that is this is one of the first things I was asking about when I first got on the commission 4 years ago. And for 4 years, I've heard, wait for the hazard mitigation plan, wait for the hazard mitigation plan. And I think a lot of us were surprised to learn at the work session a couple weeks ago that there's actually these 2 other plans that contain very important provisions around some of the stuff that I and others have been asking about over the years, especially with regard to shelter and also with coordinating with those entities. So the caution I have is that if we don't emphasize that we really need this before the winter, and December's our last voting meeting before we might deal with another freeze, then we might see, for whatever understandable circumstances, the can get kicked on this again like it has been for a long time. And we've got the key position hired now for the person who's going to spearhead this. And my hope is that, even if something goes awry, like say that person gets sick or something, that staff makes sure that this gets done, because we as a community need to be prepared before the freeze comes again in the winter, which is likely, and then also as soon as possible, because as colleagues have noted and as we just saw a few days ago, plenty of other things besides freezing temperatures can cause a need for us to have more of a plan for shelter than we do now, and more of those details actually in writing about who we're going to communicate with. So that's why I'd like to keep it as is, and certainly if staff comes back in December and says, hey, we got this one ready and the other one, in your inbox is a draft of some updates, but we need until now to finish it, we'll get that information when we do. But I think this sends the important, clear message that we see this as a priority moving into the winter.
Fisher.
Yeah, and I think, if y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought Chief Moss had mentioned that he had already had these things in place with these entities, UGA, school district. I think, hospitals. I think he said we got those things in place. Am I correct, Manager Jones? So I think those pieces are there. And to Commissioner Hu's point, I just think if we can get the first document, at least have that, and then if we can wait, But I just think you just never know what's going to happen in the community, and I just think we just need to be ready when those things happen. Of course, are you really ready? But you just got to know what needs to happen and make sure all these things are in place so our community feel like we're on top of things. So that's all.
All right, go ahead and move to a vote. We'll do a roll call, beginning with Commissioner Hool.
Poole?
Yes.
Culpepper?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Thornton?
Yes.
Hamby?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Link?
Yes.
Saylor?
Here, yes.
Wright?
No, and now you guys know why.
Fisher?
Yes.
Got 9 yes and 1 no.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. All right, moving on to item 29, the ARPA fund allocation. There's a commission-defined option from Commissioners Taylor and Hamby. Would one of you like to place a motion on the floor?
Well, it's actually just Commissioner Hamby, and I'll make a motion to approve the commission-defined option. I do have a slight change to make that allows for a little bit of versatility within our fleet management and make it more broader and say that it's fleet replacement. And then I have more comments after if I get a second.
All right, so motion from Commissioner Hamby is to approve the CDO in the package with the broadening of the vehicles to fleet replacement generally. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but I'm not supporting it, but I'll second it.
All right, so I got a motion from Commissioner Hamby and a second from Commissioner Thornton. All right, Commissioner Hamby, remarks?
Sure, I do have a few remarks, Mayor. And I think the most important remarks is this, that we always have a lot to think about and a lot to consider. And one of the things that, that I think with the ARPA dollars that we are thinking about in this regard is trying to look down the line. We know our next general fund budget discussions are coming up starting in January, probably February. And we get an idea about what that's going to look like and what the challenges are going to be there. So, certainly what we're trying to do with these ARPA dollars is set things up like the Boys and Girls Club so that we can make them sustainable, perhaps with a community partnership that we have within our general fund. So, and that's looking at that. We're also addressing some of the most urgent needs. I mean, certainly youth violence and prevention is an urgent need, and we've taken some steps to address those with the Boys and Girls Club and with others. The courthouse elevators. I mean, that's an urgent need because we just voted last week to send operations over to the Classic Center, and that's costing dollars. We also want to make sure that people who go to our courthouse have accessibility up to the 5th floor. Not everybody can take the stairs, and we want to make sure it's safe for everybody to go to be into the courthouse. So certainly there's that expense. The cost expense allows us to realize some savings so that we can maximize opportunities for utilizing that building that's been vacant for a long time now. So everything that you see within this document, the intent of it is to provide some savings within our general fund so that we can address the needs and the concerns of the community, and youth violence and prevention is one of them. So it allows us to look at general fund dollars to make those more sustainable. There's a partnership in here with the Clarke County School District that wasn't mentioned at the podium. So certainly maybe there's more opportunities for the Clarke County School District to also, I think there's some leftover ARPA funds there to be utilized. So there's partnerships we can make, and there's decisions we have to make. And some of the decisions tonight help set the stage for making things that are important more sustainable. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Thornton, you seconded to sustain the conversation. Would you like to make
I
your
just
remarks?
seconded just to stay in the conversation. I didn't support this a month ago when it came up. I didn't support it when we discussed it at the retreat. and I'm not supporting it now. And, you know, it's real petty when you say, I told you so. But when these ARPA monies came down, I was the only commissioner that participated in those calls on Washington, D.C., and I knew what I was bringing back the information, even oh God, help me Jesus, I'll come back to that. And here we are now. We never had public conversation. 11 people decided on these buckets. We never opened it up. And then we waited too long to spend the money. And now people who are doing good work are either being left out or not even being considered or even punished. Because when we go to the ARPA money with the timelines, some of those folk didn't even get a check, a contract for a year. And now they got to make these deadlines. I do think it's interesting that we have a Board of Education member come and speak to us. That was part of the original discussion about ARPA and moved in this direction, but we did not include or involve this community, and that's why I'm voting not against the community, I'm voting against us, because we did not do our due diligence at the very beginning. And I want to clear up something else about this infrastructure. I wasn't talking about cars, I wasn't talking about elevators, I was talking about people who got black water running out their sink because their water is dirty, that live in a predominantly Hispanic community. I was talking about Pitter Road that just found out that their water is contaminated. That's the infrastructure I was talking about. So all of it is just as important, but we did not do our due diligence as commissioners, and you know it's right because I sent all of y'all an email about 2 weeks ago reminding each one of you the history of how we ended here. So no, I'm not voting for it.
Further input or additional opportunities, Commissioner Link?
Yeah, I'd like to put forth a substitute motion to put this on hold. Anybody would like to second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I believe Commissioner Thornton, you know, she's right on track. There's not been, this discussion on how to spend this leftover money has not been made in the public eye. In fact, it was made 100 miles away when two of us couldn't even be there. So, I'm thankful for the folks who came up today to speak about the youth development needs. I've also heard from folks who voiced opinions about affordable housing need. From what I understand, the Equitable Housing Preservation Fund that we had granted some of these funds to, they had applied for additional funds to continue that program, which is an affordable housing program and an anti-gentrification program. So, you know, from what I understand, there was more money that they needed. So I just think that this discussion needs more public airing, and I do have some issues with spending this money on public safety vehicles when we do have another TSPLOST around the corner where we could get the money from that initiative. I understand we need to get this money out the door or else it goes away. But the infrastructure, you know, I look at the list of priorities that those of us, you know, on this commission voiced, and you know, there's a lot of stormwater, sanitary sewer, and none of that is on this list. So I feel like, I mean, I know the clock is ticking, but this list does not resemble the list of priorities that those of us even behind this rail voiced just a few weeks ago.
I'm going to continue public input, but I want to note a functional reality that Commissioner Link just noted, which is that, in fact, the clock is ticking, that we have to sign contracts for every penny of these expenditures by December 31st of this year, and we've already kicked the can down the road. So I just want to make that clear and evident to everybody in the room. And, all right, I'm going to move to Commissioner Myers, who seconded, and then Commissioner Wright.
Yeah, I'm looking over this. I'll take some fault with this in that after that workforce development, I was kind of worn out and didn't really push through on this youth force and I do regret that there isn't more in this final money. It was clear in some of the discussions in the retreat that there was a lot of people who were wary of putting like the full 600,000 that was recommended to begin with to the Boys and Girls Club, which results in the Boys and Girls Club not having funding for a second year after. It's one more year than they already have for the youth centers there. And I know that Commissioner Fisher was communicating with us via phone and other video things. That was a concern of his here. And I do have just some regrets about there not being more money for youth development. In here, he and I both serve on that Delinquency Prevention Initiative Task Force, the Boys and Girls Club. I know, if we were doing this again, we will have learned a lot of lessons about how this went and had gotten this process going a lot earlier with the kind of public input sooner, because the time did keep clicking along, and here we are at the last minute here. So I do support Commissioner Link's motion to hold this, I would assume do we have a time, Commissioner Link?
I mean, I would like to see it held for at least until our agenda setting meeting, so we can maybe rework a CDO that is more inclusive of the needs that were actually expressed.
So amended motion is to hold until the 15th of October.
Patrick has his hand up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The chair will call upon folks in the order that they will be recognized.
I'm sorry. I'm just so anxious to hear you, Patrick.
Commissioner Myers, had you concluded your comments?
Yeah, I have, but I mean, I think everyone who's here can also look at the lists that are in here in this agenda item and see our initial discussions in here with the mayor about what we were looking for. And that's where I feel some regret, because I did put youth violence and prevention in the land bank for affordable housing, and I did not push hard on that or try to build alliances to get more money in that way. So I take responsibility for that as well.
I've got Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
You're
Patrick.
leaning that way. I'm like, wait,
I'm sorry,
that was my turn. I'm ready to move forward with the commission-defined option that had been worked on this week and shared early on. I find it very interesting. We voted for the last two voting meetings on ARPA money, workforce development.
That's right.
Youth development. The school district has what? 50-something million dollars. I'm thinking that their focus would be youth-related. I don't know, call me crazy. We're infrastructure. We're services to our community. We have a lot of obligations. Obligations are going to come forward with the hazard mitigation, things like that, that we have to do for the whole community, youth, seniors, everyone. So I think that, leisure services. We run a leisure services department. It's very youth-driven, and the services for that. That's all youth. And so this is just a very small fraction, really, of the ARPA money that we had, that we finally are at us talking about based on all the input that we've gotten, solicited, unsolicited, proposals. We've gone through different cycles along the way with all this. I'm not sure what the next bit of holding is going to gain, but I'm not supportive of the hold, and I'll be supporting the commission-defined option.
I've got Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple questions for Manager Jones, and then I have some thoughts I'd like to share. Manager Jones, this agenda item as is has a bunch of line items on it. Could you just briefly kind of remind me how much staff is going to have to do for each of those line items to actually turn this vote into the money being ready by the calendar year deadline, and how long that'll take?
So that's a good question. These are what we deemed shovel-ready, if you will. They're we can go ahead and enter into a contract quickly. So if you're asking how much additional time we would have if y'all delayed the vote, is that where you're going?
I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with it, but my understanding is that part of why we landed on these is that we're out of time for, so yeah, my other question was, I mean, is there time for new contracts? We've been told that there isn't time for new contracts.
No, that's why these were selected.
And that includes, I heard stormwater and sanitary sewer mentioned, and we discussed this at meetings here as well as the retreat, but the money going to those projects wouldn't really be feasible because of the way the funding for those projects are structured. Is that right? That's why we moved
And
to
the
these other
timing
things.
of those projects.
Yeah. And then I guess my last question about timing is, let's say we wanted to rearrange the money here to be for different things that are also somehow already contracts we're engaged in that we would be amending. I mean, would there be sufficient time to do that after tonight, or are we?
An amendment of a contract is essentially creating a new contract.
Of that ARPA CDO that passed years ago when we created the buckets and when we designated youth development and violence prevention. And I don't know how many times colleagues have heard me rant and rave about how it was youth development and violence prevention, right? We talked ad nauseum about this. And I think one of the speakers said, it doesn't seem like we're on the same page. I mean, that's honestly true. Like, how did we get here? We moved a lot of ARPA money out the door for some pretty innovative stuff. But we never got, as a body, as a majority of the body, we never found a way to agree to count to 6 on additional new ideas. And people can say whatever they want to say tonight about what we should have done differently in the past, but the unfortunate, hard reality is that we're out of time. It sucks. I don't like that. I don't like that we didn't spend this money the way we had said we would. But we're just in a position now where we can either move it forward for stuff that we've already got contracts for, which is the kind of stuff you see here, or not spend it, lose it, you know? So I'm not hearing anybody propose anything realistic. For a couple months now, people have said, we should do this or that instead, we should do this or that instead. Nobody wrote a document, nobody whipped up 6 votes to move that thing forward. Nobody came to the retreat with a specific idea for something that we could actually do, that we had time to do. So, you know, we got people in the room rightly critiquing this body for not using this money on workforce and business development like we had initially said we would, rightly critiquing us for not spending on youth development like we said we would. That is a fair critique, and that is on all of us for not getting done. But it's unrealistic to sit here tonight and vote no and pretend like there's something else we could be doing instead. So, you know, whatever people feel like they need to do to sound like they're doing the right thing, go for it. But there's just no realistic way for us to spend this money on creative new solutions with the amount of time that's left. It sucks, but that's the reality.
Commissioner Davenport.
Thank you. So yeah, I support the original motion and get this thing moving. And you know, if you go to our, if you go to our website, you can see where we have spent money on youth development. And yeah, it has been a little round robin over the course of the years, but we are at a junction where we only have literally 2 months left. And I like the original bucket, but I do accept the CDO. And just FYI, just looking at the CCSD data analytics for the Clarke County School District was awarded elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund from ARPA, COVID-19 pandemic. They were awarded $78.78 million. They only spent $67.9 million, so that's $11 million left over, and they have 2 months to essentially spend that. So I know that people want to come to the government and be like, government, you know, it's y'all responsibility to take care of the community, take care of everybody, but we also have all these other entities out in the community who will receive the same amount of funds for the same amount of, for the same purpose, but nobody goes to them. I've been advocating for my dirt roads because like those people on Fitzmar have been complaining for 22 years now to get those roads done. So I will not budge on my dirt roads. But, you know, when it comes to the library, a lot of people in our community use those libraries. That is a youth prevention place. A lot of people go there. I know my parents took me to the library because they didn't want to babysit, but, you know, they took me to the library they wanted to enrich my education. But that AC they don't have the funds because it's completely funded by the community. Yes, I can, you know, we can go back and forth on the fleet. Yes, I'm not too happy about the reduction in the Boys and Girls Club, but according to what they have presented us, we gave them $2.8 million. Only $70,000 have been spent so far. So there's still some money left over that could be spent. But you know, for me, as my role as a District 1, I know I sent out a newsletter. I asked my constituents, hey, because we've been talking about this for 4 months. This is not new. I said, do y'all have any suggestions for the ARPA fund use it? Let me know, and I advocate for you. And all my constituents said infrastructure, and that's what I'm standing for. Thank you.
All right, I want to move to Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor. I think, and I appreciate Commissioner Thornton giving us the history about our ARPA fund. I appreciate her sending out that information. Myself, Commissioner Culpepper, and Commissioner Taylor came on this particular body. You know, $7 million was sitting in youth development, hadn't moved for 2 years. Nothing happened. It was just sitting there. Then, you know, I started talking, said, well, we need to start using some of this money to help, you know, young people in our community, you know. And before I got elected, we had a young lady lose her life over in Rover Ridge. We convened a meeting at Ebenezer. The room was packed. Some of y'all was in there. I was elected DA. She was there. And, you know, the thing was, what can we do to help our young people in this community? And now, you know, we're here. We're trying to figure out, you know, how to move forward. Yes, I wish the whole $3 million would be used toward youth development in some form or fashion. But obviously, as this body, and again, you know, we're a Democratic body. You know, sometimes we agree and we disagree, and that's okay. I would love to see more money into the youth development bucket, but to Commissioner Hu's point, we're a timeline, and that's our fault. That's our fault, and we need to be transparent about that. That's the commissioner's fault. Although I wasn't on it initially, I'm here now. It's my fault too, and we should have moved this. And y'all remember, and I hate saying this, I told us back in January we need to start getting a plan together. But here we are now. So I'm probably going to support us moving forward. I think, you know, unfortunately, we got a lot of needs in this community when it comes to our young people, and we need to fulfill those needs in some form or fashion. But you know, it's just sad that, you know, we're taking the $7 million that was allotted for youth development and start spreading it out among other things. And those needs are important. Don't get me wrong, but are our young people not important? I'm gonna tell one of the stories, and then I'm done, Mayor. When I was working for the Clarke County School District, you know, we had agreed to make West Broad a daycare. But because some people thought a building was more important than children, it got defeated. And that was sad for me to see that, and I was an employee then, so that was sad for me. So I'm sad a little bit now about, because we hadn't, I think, done enough to help our young people, but this is where we are right now, and I think, you know, we go ahead and take the vote, and wherever the vote falls, let that be the way it falls. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I've got Commissioner Taylor next.
Yeah, last week at the retreat, I sat and listened to the conversation as far as what we were going to do with the youth development money. And I said that I wasn't going to fall on the sword for it. A few months ago, back in June, my 15-year-old son was shot in the chest at an Airbnb party that was unsupervised. And we are still going through therapy. We are still going through court because he is being charged for giving, and I'm transparent, giving a false statement. ACCPD feels like he should have told them whatever. And so going through this with Jacob, as well as the disciplinary problems that have now followed him to Cedar Shows. Today at 1 o'clock, I went to a hearing, and I'm not sure if my son is going to be kicked out of CCSD or if he will be able to stay as a student. These are the realities of our youth. And as a mom that sits on this board with children who go to the Boys and Girls Club, who, plays basketball in Nellie B behind the apartments, this bucket of money is kind of personal because I'm the only mom that has a voice to speak on the things that we go through, but there are thousands of moms just like me who go through the same thing with their student on a daily basis. I do know that we are on a timeline. I know that these things are very important, but at the end of the day, so are our youth. Without the Boys and Girls Club, Jacob going to youth force, he wouldn't have anything to do in the afternoons, which makes him more eager to go out and get into trouble, where now he's in a building with opportunities to do better. So I say all of that to say I am not going to be voting on this vote, because either way it goes, the community gets served, but a lot of opportunity goes out the door when it comes to at-risk youth, which just so happens to be one of my 15-year-old sons. So
I've got a second round with a couple of folks. Move to Commissioner Myers, then Thornton and Davenport.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor, for sharing that with us. And I, in terms of putting a hold on it, I do realize there's a lot of restrictions. We saw that with the workforce development money. I'm well aware of that. And I'm not necessarily saying that in 2 weeks we might not be back here voting on the same thing. However, there is a discussion that I am willing to have and put into the discussion of reallocating the other $300,000 to the Boys and Girls Club. There was, and I did want to ask the manager one question, because on the document that was distributed to us in the agenda project, under the agenda report, under the items where it lists what the commissioners were told the mayor, there's a list of staff recommendations. Are those all, and one of them was those basketball courts at Southeast Clark Park. Is that because you all felt that those could be contracted and taken care of in the allotted time, the amount of time we have left?
That's correct. At that point in time, I would have to confirm with Director Kilpatrick if that's still the case.
Okay. Are there any other basketball courts that are in the same similar?
That was the closest one to shovel-ready, as I understand, but I think we need to reach out to Director Kilpatrick and
Okay, thank you.
confirm that.
So all I'm saying is if it does, if we do hold it, I will work with whoever is interested in seeing if there are some more funds that shovel-ready in the next 14 days.
All right, I'm going to move to Commissioner Thornton.
Again, I don't know if my colleague was talking about me when he made a comment about not bringing nothing forward, but I always bring stuff forward. It's just never heard. When I said I was voting no, that meant no to the CDO or a second thing. I meant no to all of it. But if you're talking about doing something tangible in 2 weeks, which I don't see how we could do it, I'd be glad to help. I feel as though I speak on this commission and nobody listens. And then when we get here, I catch the blame with the rest of y'all. But if there's a conversation, Commissioner Myers, I didn't serve on not one ARPA committee, even though I was the only one who participated in ARPA training, not one. Maybe we could have had some, I could have shared some of the things that we learned in those workshops. So I'm voting no on both, but if if it happens to roll out that something else comes out, I'll be glad to work with whoever.
Commissioner Davenport.
Administrative question. Excuse me, thank you. First question, for the after-school program, we're collaborating with CCSD with the youth sports. Do the parents have to pay to participate in those in those after-school programs?
No, sir.
Okay. Can we make, are you proof positive that, like, if I want to play soccer or whatever? But anyway, so that's one question. The second question is to look at maybe a possible way of reallocating those funds back to the Boys and Girls Clubs and whatnot. So we do have the SPLOST 2020, this to you, Mayor, or to Nikki and Saunders. SPLOST 2020 space allocation. I think we have, and that's for the courthouse, the existing courthouse, where we're going to move that courthouse out and use that for our administrative offices. So if we take money out of that bucket to fix those elevators, because the elevator is going to essentially be there anyway until we renovate, can we use that SPLOST 2020 space allocation fund for those elevators?
So if the question is replacement of the elevators or repair of them an eligible expense for the space modernization project category of SPLOST, the answer is yes.
And I just want to share, Commissioner, that has already been considered, and in fact, in a future agenda item, there's going to be a recommendation coming before this body on investments that could be made into the current courthouse to make some upgrades and sustain the facility with capital while the judicial center is being built.
Okay. I'll get around.
That's it.
Okay. Commissioner Houle and then Hamby.
Yeah, it's always fun when I find myself agreeing with Commissioner Hamby. But when he made his motion, he talked about looking to the upcoming budget, the FY26 budget. And one of the things I'm glad this body did, we expanded our funding of the Community Partnerships Program. We've funded a lot of things with general fund money that we didn't used to, and at the same time that we've spent this ARPA money. So, I would encourage colleagues who have concerns about us to remember the amount of money that's being diverted from the youth development and the workforce buckets, and then, come to those budget discussions with concrete proposals for how to make up the difference then, the discussion before us tonight is whether or not to spend the money that's left on these things in the time we've got left, and we are out of time. And so the idea of voting no to all of it, if a majority of the body here votes no to all of it, we just lose the money, which then means this stuff that we're spending it on here, we have to spend general fund money on or SPLOST money on instead. There's nothing to be gained by not moving this forward. I think a more productive conversation is, at the next retreat, bring those concrete ideas forward of what we should be funding instead. In the next budget cycle, bring those concrete ideas forward. It's not just, we could expand the community partnerships program, you could add some specifications to it, you could talk about things in leisure services, HCD, whatever. I think that's the best way forward to honor what the intention was behind this money that didn't get spent, and to honor the concerns we're hearing at the podium from the public tonight. Especially some of the rationale I heard for holding is we don't feel like we've been transparent or something, which is a thing that frustrates me when I hear that from this body. But I don't see how in 2 weeks with only one meeting between now and then, we're somehow going to have a more transparent way of changing how we spend this money. What are we going to do in the next 2 weeks that we haven't done in the last 2.5 years since passing this in March 2022? So I really encourage my colleagues, it sounds like this vote's going to be very close. I encourage my colleagues to think about the consequences of not passing this is losing the money. It's not doing something really great with it instead.
Okay, Commissioner Hand.
Sure, and I'm not going to make any points out. After 3-something years, I agree with Commissioner Houle. Thank you, Commissioner Houle.
Commissioner Myers.
And I would just suggest that actually waiting 14 days and putting something together are the same thing. I'm looking at that list of contracts. I don't think, I think there might be slight adjustments, and I think that staff could handle them. So it's not a question of either throwing the money back to the federal government by not voting it for tonight. So I'm in the lucky place to disagree with my colleague, Commissioner Poole, tonight, to say that actually we could still be spending the money in 2 weeks as well. And I will be voting on some way to spend the money if it is moved forward for 2 weeks from now.
All right, Commissioner Hamby, then we're going to move to vote.
No, I'm ready to vote. That's what I was saying,
okay.
unless you want me to call the question.
Yeah.
Request a vote, which was about to happen. So we're going to begin with the substitute motion, which was proposed by Commissioner Lincoln, seconded by Commissioner Myers. So we're going to begin a round robin with Commissioner Lincoln.
Yes.
Taylor?
No.
Wright?
No.
Fisher?
No.
Poole?
No.
Culpepper?
No.
Myers?
Yes.
Thornton?
No.
Hamby?
No.
Davenport?
No.
8 no, 2 yes, 8 no.
All right, so substitute motion fails. We return to the original motion, which is the CDO from Commissioner Hamby. We'll begin with the round robin there.
Hamby?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Link?
No.
Taylor?
No.
Wright?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Poole?
Yes.
Culpepper?
Yes.
Myers?
No.
Thornton?
No.
Got 6 yes and 4 no.
6 yes, motion carries. That's the math. All right, so we're moving on to item 30. This is the North Oconee River Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Crossing Design and Services During Construction. Do I hear a motion from the body?
So move.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby, second from Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Hamby, any sewer remarks?
No, sir.
Commissioner Wright, any sewage-related remarks?
Ready to vote.
All right, any other remarks from the body? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Item 31 is the Athens Housing Authority Lexington project, we're going to call it that now.
Yes.
Pilot request. All right, we've seen 2 of these come before us over the last year and a half.
That 29 had ordinance associated with it. I don't think I read it, did I?
Oh, no, you did not. No, we're going to go ahead and hear that now and confirm our vote.
Yep. An ordinance to amend the FY 2025 annual operating capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to designate remaining American Rescue Plan Act funding to various projects and for other purposes.
All right, we've got an ordinance in front of us. What I'm going to ask is commissioners to vote to affirm the position they held 3 minutes ago. All who continue to hold the position that you articulated, please say aye.
Aye.
Any new thoughts? Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and confirm the 6-4 vote.
Maybe it could be called Lexington Peaks.
Nope.
It's different item.
I think that it actually rests in a valley, Commissioner. So item 31 is the pilot project. Is there a motion regarding it?
We motion to approve.
I second.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Taylor, a second from Commissioner Thornton. All right, Commissioner Taylor, any further?
No, I'm just ready to vote.
Commissioner Thornton?
No, ready to vote.
Anything else from other members of the body? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, item 32 is acceptance of the FY24 Comprehensive Performance Audit of Employee Recruitment, Hiring, and Orientation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Wright. I've got a second from Commissioner Hamby. Commissioner Wright, any remarks?
Well done. I don't want to waste time talking about how good the audit is. Just approve it. Just accept it. Thank you.
Commissioner Hamby?
No, thanks, Kevin.
Anything else from members of the body? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, item 33 is the College Square Pedestrian Plaza project delivery concept. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby, and I've got a second from Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Hamby?
Thank you. And I just made note that this is in Commissioner Wright's district, and certainly appreciate staff's looking at the alternative project delivery concepts, so that this project could probably we're shooting for late next year to have it done. So hopefully we can stay on task to do that. And I think it's going to be a great project for community building and and community meeting spaces. So it's a good partnership between the county and the ADDA to make this happen. Thank you.
Commissioner Wright?
Yeah, I look forward to this partnership and moving forward with getting rid of the curbs and getting it to be a bona fide space with dedicated infrastructure and beautification.
Beautiful. Commissioner Myers?
I am supportive of it, but I do want to ask Attorney Drake a question because I've seen some questions about this online, and that is the fact that with the architectural drawings, the concept design that we've seen, there was no public RFP. And how did you explain that to me earlier today?
Under Georgia law for professional services, you're not required to do an RFP with construction projects. So that's basically the answer.
Good, thank you. And now hopefully the public will hear that as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Link?
Yeah, we're on College Square, right?
Correct.
I just want to make sure that these public engagement sessions are properly advertised and they appear on our ACC calendar, they go out through social media. I just want to make sure the public is fully aware of the opportunities to engage in this project.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Houle?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, because we discussed this at more length in previous meetings, and we got a staff memo that clarifies that a lot of the questions around stormwater and shade structures and other things related to the design are still things that can be hammered out in the design phase. So those public input processes, or public input sessions that Commissioner Link is referring to, is one opportunity for the public to weigh in, as well as any other meetings we have in the future about it. But, you know, just to kind of share with people where to plug in for those elements.
Thanks. All right, I've got a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And we move to general public input on any item not on tonight's agenda. Rules of this public input are approximately the same as before, a 3-minute opportunity. There's the same clock right in front of us. And as always, please state your name, your place of residence, and stay within your 3-minute timeline. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Chinmay Joshi. I reside at 375 River Road. Thank you for having us today. My name is Chinmay Joshi, and I'm here with Jack Jerishow. He'll be speaking after me. We're both juniors at UGA as well as Athens residents. We're here representing Athens Prison Tutorial, a student volunteer organization that pairs volunteers with incarcerated people at the Clarke County Correctional Institution and the Athens Diversion Center to offer free GED tutoring on weekday evenings. In our almost 10-year history, our organization has supported hundreds of incarcerated students as they pursue their educational goals. Unfortunately, the Corrections Department informed us in late August that they would be discontinuing our GED program, a decision with grave implications for rehabilitative efforts in our county. Further, there's well-documented academic and public policy research showing that prison reentry programs like ours reduce recidivism and boost economic outcomes. The primary reason that the Department of Corrections cited for suspending the program was understaffing. And while we are deeply sympathetic to these issues and grateful for the support of corrections up until this point, we believe that discontinuing volunteer GED tutoring altogether is not the right solution. We believe that there's a way forward as long as we continue to collaborate with each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joshi.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to go ahead and follow up on the comments of Mr. Joshi.
Just make sure you state your name for the record.
Sure. Hello, I'm Jack Jerishow, 130 Hickory Street. As you may have seen, we, Athens Prison Tutorial, have delivered open letters to your inboxes, and these letters outline some more specific details about the challenges we are facing. These letters are also accompanied by the signatures of over 400 UGA students, signatures that we compiled in just over a day. We know that the ACC government faces a lot of challenges, but we, along with the UGA student body, do feel that this challenge in particular deserves the attention of the unified government. We have already initiated conversations with several local government leaders to remedy this issue. And while these conversations have been fruitful, it has been over a month, yet we have not been able to move the needle. That is why we are here tonight, to humbly ask you all to help us keep this program alive in whatever capacity you can. A commitment to rehabilitation and to educational opportunity is not something our community can afford to compromise. Please, Mayor, Manager, Commission, do not give up on this GED program. And please, do not give up hope for the incarcerated individuals who are one second chance away from a better life. We thank you sincerely for your time and welcome any further discussion or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jericho.
Theresa Omanovich again. I just wanted to come back and thank you guys for taking accountability for delaying the funding, getting to this point where you're running out of time and you really can't use the federal funds that were brought in to solve the issues that they're speaking about and the community is. So I just want to thank you guys for taking ownership for that. And we'll continue as the community to ensure that you do going forward. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Simonovich. Any other general comment tonight? Good evening.
Good evening.
It's good to see you.
Hello, my name is Benny Coleman. I live at 271 Rose Drive. Due to the circumstance that was going on in Clarke County, I believe that one way we can remedy some of these problems we have is to not have any more retreats outside of Athens-Clarke County. If anything needs to be discussed, we have plenty of locations inside of the city of Athens to discuss it, so we can save money on the travel expenses and everything, use that money on helping the people who they need help with. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Any other general input tonight? Evening.
Good evening, Dylan Woolsey, 505 Urban Parkway. I want to comment on two things. I didn't hear the full phrase or anything at the last agenda setting meeting, but I heard talk about general discussion about student housing and the perspectives of students on how they go into housing. So as a student, I just want to give my perspective on it. Currently, from what I talk to with other students and me, myself, and other of my friends, but just general students at UGA especially, and in general, they mostly just look for what is the most easily accessible, cheapest option, and often that will lead to displacement of current homeowners. And because of that, I think in general, as will kind of lead to my second thing I want to comment on, in general, more housing options and more housing constructed in general will help, because students are, as unfortunate as the growing student population is in Athens, will continue to, it seems to be increasing in the near future. And so they will either, the only things that'll happen is either they'll displace people who are currently living in their homes as they are able to outcompete local renters and people who are trying to buy homes, or if new construction is being built, they will most likely occupy, they're more likely to occupy those. And so in terms of those two options, I think it might be better to pursue that in terms of more possible displacement that may occur. As well, in this November, we all know there's an election going on, and the candidate that is likely to get the majority of Clarke County's votes has one of their main goals is building 3 million new homes across the United States, and proportionally, Athens is the amount of homes Athens would need to build for that is 1,100 approximately. So, as a majority, most likely of Athens-Clarke will probably vote for this candidate who wants to do this plan as this major part of their policy platform. I would like just the commissioners to consider this when new housing and new zoning comes up for review, and hopefully would lean on the side of approval of more housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. Anyone else tonight? All right. Just briefly, just want to remind everyone that October 7th is your last day to vote or change your voting registration to Clarke County. If you'd like to vote here rather than wherever you might have previously been registered. I want to go ahead and see if there's anything from the manager tonight.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. A couple things, actually. First, I want to make sure I notify the commission because the ordinance requires me to, that I have used some contingency funds for the municipal court, and this was during the case of the bed bugs. So we had to give them $8,250 of contingency funds. And my second point tonight I would like to make is just say thank you to all of our folks who worked during the hurricane. So, from public safety, the streets and drainage, to our facility folks, thank you very much. And also a big shout out to Jackson AMC and Georgia Power.
Thank you, Manager Jones. I appreciate it. Anything tonight, Mr. Auditor?
Sir. There was a person who wanted to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry, there was confusion about the end of the line. But I'm going to turn to the attorney, and then we'll have an opportunity. Yeah, Mr. Attorney, anything tonight?
Not anything tonight.
Thank you. All right, come on down. Ms. Bice?
I'm going to just read this so I don't stumble over my words. Then Christine Bice, 340 Whitehead Road, Athens, 30606. Good evening. I'd like to propose an idea to utilize the Future Foundations program to build little free libraries to increase book access in lower income areas in particular. As many of you know, the Future Foundations is a relatively new initiative, a collaboration between Sheriff John Q. and Spencer Fry, Executive Director of the Athens Area Habitat for Humanity. The program equips female inmates at the local jail with carpentry skills and allows them to earn a certificate in Construction 101. This is an effort to help inmates return to society and find meaningful employment. My idea is to scale down from them building houses to building little free libraries, and to leverage the skills with a vision of placing them near bus stops across the community. I understand that book access will not in and of itself solve the absolutely unacceptable problem of illiteracy in Athens-Clarke County. However, there are compelling statistics that show that lack of access to books is a critical piece of the puzzle. Given these issues, I believe this project would be a win-win all around, and I would compel y'all to use your influence and channels of communication to try to further this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bice. All right, we'll move to input from commissioners. Oh, we already did that. Yep. And we'll begin with Commissioner Fisher, and then move around and have Commissioner Houle adjourn us at the end.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to thank my colleagues for reaching out to me during my surgery. I really appreciate the text messages and phone calls, although I couldn't talk, and I'm still trying to get my voice back. But thank you all for reaching out to me. I really appreciate that. So thanks again. That's it, Mayor.
We enjoyed the quiet time.
Look at that. I know it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Good thing you're way over there.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, well, thanks, everybody, and I do appreciate the staff's work, although the storm did not hit us in a comparatively terrible way as some of our fellow communities. There was a lot of work to be done, and there still is a lot of cleanup to be picked up. And if everybody would just be patient, the leaf and limb regular schedule is on hold right now for the storm cleanup, and just stay involved with our website for the updates, because they are there for folks to keep dialed into that kind of update. And if you guys are looking for funding, the school district has money. You should maybe go visit them too.
I would like to thank all of the departments who worked during the storm. My sentiment goes out to all of the families who have been affected by the storms, whether it's in Athens or in the surrounding counties. My prayers are with all of you. I would like to thank my colleagues. I think that we did a great job tonight expressing how we felt about a really heavy situation. And I think that it opened the door for a lot of transparency between the community and this body as a whole. So I just look forward to more conversations that we have publicly. That's it.
Yeah, I want to thank staff as well for all the work they did cleaning up after the storm, but also the work they did warning. I felt like we had a very informed community, and a lot of people were prepared for the worst. I know I was. And I don't think that was the case in some other communities that are really, really struggling. And I want to urge everyone to do what you can to help. There's tons of opportunities to donate out there. I also want to thank these young men for coming forward, and I had no idea that this program existed, and thank you for your service. I think you're model students. I really would love to see more UGA students doing this kind of community service. It's really invaluable, and I feel like you probably gain just as much from it as the folks that you're able to help. So I want to ask this body to do what we can to see that program is reinstated, and that these folks, that we do a lot of we have a lot of conversation about recidivism and how to give folks opportunity after they get out of incarceration, and yet we have a program here that's been disbanded. So I feel like we really have an obligation to figure out how to get that started again. Thank you.
All righty. Of course, be remiss without thanking staff, the state of Georgia, all the people, Georgia Power and the contractors for helping out, and just keep these people in your prayers, especially in South Carolina, North Carolina, South Georgia, North Florida. Vote, please, for the love of God, y'all. Have a plan to be ready to vote. Early voting starts next week, I believe.
15th.
The 15th, so it's right around the corner, so please have a plan to vote. Make sure you stick to that plan and make sure you vote. Also, it is Halloween. Halloween is right around the corner. Our police and sheriff department have an awesome free Halloween event, safe for families. Bring your kids out, candies, spooky stuff, fun, and they have a haunted house, so please. It's a great community event. It is, and it's a great way to show how much staff contributes to our community. What else? And y'all, we are done with ARPA funds. Raise the roof. We are done with ARPA funds.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll just reiterate what was being said about the communication. I would check the website daily or hourly, perhaps, see what streets were closed. So I thought y'all did a good job, and Jeff Montgomery did a good job in keeping that list updated. So thanks, y'all. Have a good evening.
Yeah, likewise, thanks to staff and everyone in the community for all the shared information during the storm. But I also want to say thanks to everyone who came out and spoke at the end of the meeting, waited there, but especially Mr. Joshi and Jericho for your words in support of that prison tutorial program. And I'm going to follow up and see with manager's office what we need to do or how we can help see if when that program could get back up and running. I know that's a very worthwhile program. I have 2 points that I just want to make about East Side District 8 things. One is the Firehouse Public Input Session number 2 has been rescheduled. The second one was, we did have one, but the second one was planned for last Thursday. Obviously, it was canceled because the hurricane is now rescheduled for this coming Thursday at Hillsman Middle School, 5 to 7. And as a result of that as well, the online survey for that has been extended through Sunday, October 6th. And I also wanted to give special thanks to the Police Department, Code Enforcement, Boys and Girls Club staff from their Delinquency Prevention Initiative and Youth Force Innovation Hub, and all the Clarke County management and ground staff for participating in a safety and engagement meeting last Wednesday. And special thanks really needs to go to neighborhood leader Stacy Dean for organizing this. I just had some emails back and forth today with all these entities about some changes, like with getting dumpsters attended to, cameras up and running, the possibility of a private security company, and even with our Boys and Girls Club staff, a possibility of a mural painted over there with the young people there. And while I'm on that, I just want to thank the manager's office, clerk of commission, code enforcement, and police department for all their efforts helping me respond to emails and concerns in Clark Garden since it became part of my district last year. And then finally, I open up my email or the agenda, and there's an Adopt a Highway proclamation for Carriage Lane between Barnett Shoals and Thumpa Avenue up to the end of that dead end. So I was really pleased to see that. That's Delta Kappa Epsilon, who will be doing that Adopt a Highway work. So thank you to them.
Yes, I'd like to reiterate thanks to the staff for working throughout the weekend, getting our roads cleared and opened, and thanks to the hard work of Georgia Power and our local EMCs for getting the power back on. We fared okay and didn't have too much damage, but our neighbors in Augusta and South Georgia and Tennessee and North Carolina didn't fare so well. I would urge everyone to look for avenues to donate to places that are for relief funding. I know our local food bank is taking truckloads of supplies to Augusta daily. So maybe that's an opportunity to donate and get involved. Also, when we're looking at this hazard mitigation plan, I would recommend one of the things in those areas in Augusta, I know because I was trying to get in touch with people over there was no cell phone service. So now there's ways with the Starlink being able to get satellites and get cell phone service like that. God forbid something happened in our community, but being able to have a contingency plan where we can get cell phone service up and going so people can communicate with their loved ones, but also you can communicate to get the relief efforts in. I was trying to help in Augusta with a friend of mine who owned an office over there, and I couldn't get in touch with him. I could talk, we get 2 words in, and that was it. So I think that's something that we need to look at when we're looking at this hazard mitigation plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Like everyone has already said, I can't thank staff enough for their work preparing for Hurricane Helene. Public information offices, short link, ACCGov.com/Helene was super helpful. Shared that all over the place. So I feel like you all did great, and we got really lucky that it wasn't worse here. And then staff in ACCGov and otherwise, including those power companies, did a great job with the cleanup. I also want to thank the public for taking seriously the warnings. I do look forward to the updates on those 2 plans so that we can see how we'll be even more prepared next time. I don't know how much, the retreat in Greenville, I will say there was a lot of value in being in Greenville, I think. I'm glad that we went there. It's pretty close. The drive was about the same length of time as going to Atlanta, which I didn't realize, and it was beautiful up there. But I feel like we learned a lot from Greenville, ideas that can maybe serve us well in the future here. And I really want to thank Sarah George for all the work she did in organizing everything, and Commissioner Myers for bringing an extra bicycle for me to ride with her and check out the Swamp Rabbit Trail. I will, briefer than before, but because this is one of my last opportunities, I'll reiterate my formal requests of the mayor to assign to LRC, GOC, or the Planning Commission examining single-family regulations in our code to exempt homestead properties and/or increase the number of unrelated people allowed, remove gas stations from our code as being allowed by right, and to revise the code with regard to halfway houses to simplify their process for approval and align our code with state law. I also want to urge all my colleagues and the mayor, maybe this is sounding like a broken record because it's been a year, but it's been a year. We still haven't adopted any kind of ceasefire resolution. Lots of other communities have. Some communities still are. War in that area is escalating. U.S. troops are being sent, which makes the conflict over there increasingly relevant because we have folks from Athens in the armed services. So I do think it is our responsibility to say something, however small of a dent it might make, and I hope that, I just urge you all to do that. There are drafts that might need minor revisions now that are ready to go. And finally, I do want to thank the public commenters. It's always great to have people who stick through all this and speak to us thoughtfully. Please, Athens Prison Tutorial, stick around. I'd love to talk with you. I definitely hope we can get updates soon. A few of us have already reached out to staff trying to figure out what's going on there. But I do want to note, we unanimously at the retreat expressed support enthusiastically, which delighted me, for retaining in our strategic plan the goal of reducing recidivism and reducing the jail and supervised population. So now that that's likely to be one of the very few goals remaining, I do hope that we will do what we can to help this program do what it's been doing again. Thanks. Oh, motion to adjourn.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Houle, second from Commissioner Fisher. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, everyone, please have a lovely evening.